Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on You and the Law. Every week we bring you legal practitioner and together we explore societal matters and what the law says about these topics. My name is Miriam Usman. I will be introducing our guest as well as our topic of conversation after this break. Please stay with us.
I need the police that can respond to emergencies first.
I want the equipment I need to do my job.
I want a police that won't harass or arrest me for no just reason.
I want to be valued for my work, not feared by honest people.
I want a police that won't ask me anything for the boys.
I want a decent salary that is paid on time.
With good laws,
Proper funding.
Training.
And cooperation.
if it happens.
If it happens.
If it happens.
Yes, if it happened. That's why when it comes to laws, this is where you get all that you need to know about law. And yes, we are particular about this to educate you as a citizen of the country to know this right, especially when they are trampled upon. It takes your knowledge of the law to defend yourself. Today on the program, we are looking at understanding your fundamental human right as a Nigerian. Yes, we started this last week, but I'm being joined on the program today by Barrister Shaib Abolade. Thank you so much. Barrister Shaib Abdubasit, yes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on the program.
Yes, last week we had, it was a solo conversation, but today I have you, and I think it's just right we start the conversation all over again, trying to understand what these fundamental human rights are in Nigeria.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, viewers at home. Fundamental human right is basically rights that have been recognized by our laws. Any right that has been recognized by the law is fundamental and must be adhered to strictly by all and sundry. Particularly, we cannot leave the fact that the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, has actually specifically outlined the basic fundamental rights of a citizen of this country. As a citizen of this country, the 1999 Constitution has given you rights. Rights that cannot be taken away from you, except in exceptional circumstances. However, the general rule and the general principle is that a fundamental right is a basic right recognized and guaranteed by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, when we are talking about this right, we will not leave the provisions of Chapter 4 of the Constitution. Chapter 4 of the Constitution is a chapter that has actually been dedicated to specifically spell out and discuss the rights of citizens. For you to know how fundamental and how important our rights are, the Constitution specifically mentioned, specifically brought out these rights one after the other and explained them, dedicated a chapter on its own, to define and give rights and explain all these rights to us. So as citizens of this country, we must understand that our rights, our fundamental rights, are actually recognized, are actually protected by law, and they cannot be taken away from us. They cannot be taken by, especially by virtue of the fact that the ground norm, that is the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, has actually recognized, established, and has made it possible for everybody's right to be protected. So if we are talking about fundamental right, we have to specifically make reference to Chapter 4, particularly Section 33, 34, 35, 36, up to section 41 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Now, we have on the screen some of the fundamental rights. There are many, but we just listed some out. And I think it's just important we get acquainted to some of these rights.
Yes,
I mean, I've seen a situation where a person was arrested and the first thing he started saying was, I know my rights, you cannot arrest me. But you know, sometimes it's about, it's one thing to know your rights and it's another thing to understand that there are exceptions to it. And I know that as much as the Constitution provided these for citizens of the country, there are also exceptions that could make some of these rights be trampled upon. But before we look at the exceptions, let us take these rights one after the other to see if time permits us to, you know, dissect these rights.
Yes. Like we have on the screen, we have the right to life. That is section 33 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Section 33 directly established that everybody has a right to life. As much as you have been given birth to, as much as you have been brought to this life, you have right to breathe, you have right to live as a citizen of this country. Nobody can take the right away from you, except, like I have said, in exceptional circumstances. You cannot, that right to life cannot be taken away from you. You cannot be deprived of that right. So if we are talking about right to life, it means that the Constitution of Nigeria has recognized that everybody has right to life. Nobody can say, but because I am an authority, I will not allow you to live. Because I am this, I will not allow you to live. Except in exceptional, if you kill, know that your right to life will be taken away from you. Those are the exceptions. But the general rule is that you cannot deprive somebody a right to live, a right to enjoy, to breathe on this earth, irrespective of whatever it is, whether it is a misunderstanding, whether it is an argument. You cannot say you deprive that person right to his life. Whatever issues, whatever thing you have within yourself, it cannot take away the person's right to life.
So when someone's rights is taken, not by the law this time around, say from one accident or the other, or as a result of violence, you are breaking the law as stipulated by the Constitution.
Yes. If you take somebody's right unjustly, whether it is intentional or unintentional, the law actually has its provisions, like reckless driving. You cannot say somebody that recklessly drove on the highway has intention to kill. It depends on how we see it. But the general is that somebody that drives recklessly may not have the intention to kill. So it may be that he unintentionally took the life of someone. So the punishment for that is stipulated in the law. But however, you have deprived that person the right to life. And the person has to be compensated. Apart from being punished by the law, because the Federal Highway Act code actually stipulates, if you, I gave the example, if you drive recklessly and you kill, that is the closest example we can give now. If you drive recklessly and kill, we may say you don't have the intention to kill that person. However, you have to compensate the family. That is if the family wants to be compensated. Or you will be dealt with properly according to the law. Because you have taken somebody's life unjustly. You have deprived him the right to live. You have deprived him the right to breathe life. So that is it.
All right. We also have other rights, and that's right to dignity, protecting human warmth. Let's talk about that.
Yes, right to dignity is that every person, that is section 34 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, every person has the right to be dignified. Everybody, irrespective of your race, irrespective of your gender, irrespective of wherever you come from, you have right to dignity. You must dignify. You must properly address and treat somebody with respect and honor. We always have it that the police, Nigerian police force, have always been in the habit of trampling upon people's right to dignity. And we have taken them to court in several occasions, going by explaining to the court that this person's right to dignity has been taken away from him. What are the examples? Arresting somebody arbitrarily, entering upon people's houses, dwelling houses, arbitrarily. We have had cases of DSS officers or other law enforcement agencies entering up into people's houses illegally without the proper order or the proper documents. You just unnecessarily undignify somebody's life. You treat people as if they do not exist.
But we're beginning to see that as a normal thing. I mean, we've seen a lot of cases where police had to raid a particular place, maybe because of one information or the other. Is it that these people do not know what the law says about these rights?
Well, we are in a country where the normal is abnormal. That is unfortunate, because ordinarily how will a right-thinking person enter into people's house without the authority? I do not know. If you have the authority to enter somebody's house, you have to do it in a dignified manner. The law has stipulated. If you have reason to enter into people's house, example, you have suspected something, the law is there. The law has given you the procedure to follow. But just entering into people's houses without the procedure, and most at times, they do not follow the procedure.
So
they just enter.
If I know this law as a citizen,
yes,
and I know that you cannot just treat me like anyhow person, you can't just treat me regardless of who I am or my stature, and then I know that my dignity has been trampled upon, what can I do about it? Because in some cases, a lot of people are, falling victim to this. Their dignity being trampled upon, and they don't even know. They say these people who take this rights away from them ask, like the Lord over them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that is why programs like this should be encouraged. We need to enlighten people on their rights. That right is sacrosanct. Those rights cannot be taken away from you. Those rights are so sacred. They are sacred and cannot be taken away from you. If your right is trampled upon, if by any means your right has been trampled upon, particularly right to dignity, or your dignity of human person, you can approach the State High Court or Federal High Court by virtue of the Fundamental Right Enforcement Rules 2009. You can approach the court and enforce your rights, and you will seek for heavy damages. We have seen here the court have granted 20 million naira, 50 million naira, 100 million naira, billions of naira damages against law enforcement agencies. If you know your right, approach a competent court of law to enforce your fundamental rights. You should not keep quiet and allow your right to be trampled upon by anybody. It may not be law enforcement agents. Some people are always feel above the law.
Yeah.
We have some of them, they believe they are capable of trampling upon people's rights without recourse to their fundamental rights according to the Constitution. So if your right has been trampled upon, if your right has been taken away from you, you can approach a competent court of law, particularly the Federal High Court or a State High Court, to enforce your fundamental rights.
All right, let's look at right to personal liberty. That's the next one displayed on the screen. I think it's also like a bit related to freedom of movement.
Yes.
I don't know.
If we are to define right to personal liberty, it is just as it is written, personal liberty. You cannot unnecessarily restrict, you cannot unnecessarily confine a person to a place without authority. That is always at the edge of our law enforcement agents. It is always at the hinge of arrest. If you want to deprive a person his personal liberty, you must have the required law at hand before you can deprive that person right to personal liberty. Yes, the necessary procedures must be followed before you deprive that person right to personal liberty. What are we talking about? Right to personal liberty is for somebody to move about, to move anyhow. Like me now coming from my office down here, I should not be restrained by anybody. I should not be restrained. I should not be stopped by saying, where are you going? From where are you coming from? From where must you go there? I must not be.
But there are times where it's quite required, like curfew, for instance.
No, those are the exceptions.
Okay.
If a government declares curfew, those are the exceptions. We have to abide by it. It is for the good of the citizens. However, if there are no exceptions, the general rule is that nobody's rights should be taken away. Right to personal liberty. If, like the Constitution have said, this particular section talks about you must not detain somebody for more than 24 hours, except it is a capital offense. If you arrest someone, or what can make you detain somebody for more than 24 hours is maybe the distance to where the court you are to arraign the person is more than a particular radius as provided in the Constitution. However, if you are to detain someone for more than 24 hours, you have deprived him right to his personal liberty. And we have seen.
So kind of offense he can sue.
He can sue. We have seen it. I have sued the law enforcement agent because my client was detained for almost 72 hours. For what reason? In fact, it is even in matters that not even matters that you will be amazed. And this is not a matter you should even
be in
custody.
Yeah.
They will be detained for more than 72 hours, depriving them the right of liberty, just because you are the heads of affairs and you have the power to do it. So nobody, irrespective of your power, irrespective of the authority you have, you must not deprive anybody the right to personal liberty. Personal liberty must not be taken away from anybody, with few exceptions. If you commit an offense, a capital offense, don't expect that if you are arrested today, you will be released tomorrow.
Okay.
No. Or in the course of investigation, the law has given police right to approach a court of competent jurisdiction to actually seek for extension of the stay of that person in custody. So that means you have justified the deprivation of that person's personal liberty. But just arbitrarily, you'll be here. We have seen it, especially our DSS officers in this area. They detain people for more weeks. 24 hours. 24 hours, 48 hours, 1 week, 2 weeks, without recourse to this particular section. It is pathetic, it is unreasonable for us to see. It is particular about this set of law enforcement agents.
All right, let's look at the right to fair hearing.
Yes, right to fair hearing is actually related to conduct of court proceeding. Everybody has rights. Like this section is taken at the 6th of the Constitution. Section 6 of 5 says anybody alleged to have committed an offense is presumed to be innocent. Is presumed to be innocent until the contrary is proved. Yeah. That means if you catch, even if it was caught red-handed, it does not mean that person has committed that offense. He must be given right to fair hearing. Listen to him first before you convict him. That is what the law says. The law does not say because you have caught him stealing, because you have caught him doing an act, it does not mean the person has committed the offense immediately and you should adjudge the person. He must be given right to fair hearing. Even if he is being caught doing the act.
Red-handed.
Just red-handed. He must be given the right to fair hearing. Here is side of the story. Or the authorem patem. That is the principle of fair hearing. Principle of fair hearing is that or the authorem patem. Both parties must be heard. No, irrespective of whatever it is. Because he has been alleged to have committed an offense, does not mean you should unilaterally convict the person. You must hear his own side of the story. Nemo judes in causa. So another principle of fair hearing, because fair hearing has so many branches. This fundamental right is so big. It's a very big area of law that we cannot dissect in this section of this program. Like I have said, the right to fair hearing is divided into two. Or the authorem patem. Both parties must be heard. You must hear both parties. That is why if you go to court, the court always encourage that serve the other party. Other party must be on notice, except in few circumstances. And the second is nemo judex in causa sua. You cannot be a judge in your own case. You cannot be. That is the principle of fair hearing. Because like we used to see in our universities, like we used to see in some of our settings, something must have happened and they will be the one to be giving justice. They will not do that. That is not the principle of law. You should give the person fair hearing, and you must not be the judge in that case. That since we have discovered that it used to happen in universities, you see the board themselves be the one constituting committee and the one giving judgment. You are actually transcending to the arena and being a judge in your own case. Invite unilateral bodies. Whoever has been alleged to have committed an offense must be given that fair hearing. And those two principles of fair hearing must not be taken away from that person. You must not take it away from him. It is sacred. So that is it.
All right, Barrister. Just quickly before we wrap up, let's look at the right to privacy. That's the last right we'll be looking at on the program today, because time is really not by our side. The right to privacy. Right to private life. Right to private. Everybody has right to their private lives. You cannot approach me as a police officer or whatever authority you think you have and start asking me questions about my private life. My private life remains my private life. My private life remains for me alone and for whoever I feel they should know. It is not as of right that because you are an agent of the government or because you have authority over me, you should know about my private life, except in few circumstances. Maybe, like you have always said, the general rule is what I have said, but the exception is when you have committed an offense. And when you have done something against the law, your private life must be investigated.
what are the properties you have, what are these you have, what are those things you are controlling. Yeah. That means you will have to give account. Apart from that, I have right to my personal life. I have rights to live my life the way I want, without prejudice to anybody, without prejudice to law enforcement agents, without prejudice to private individuals that believe they are higher than the law.
Thank you so much, Barrister Shaib Abdulbasit. It's always a great time having you on the program. And I trust that our viewers have been able to gather one or two things on the fundamental human rights available to Nigerians. Now, like they say, wisdom is power, knowledge is power. So it is the knowledge about law that makes you, that show how powerful you are as a citizen. Yes, you are powerful as a citizen. The law recognizes you, and there are so many provisions made for you as a citizen. It is left for you to do your research and know these laws, and when it's been trampled upon, you know the right agencies to approach. The program is You and the Law right here on Ogtv, bringing you societal matters and the stand of the law. My name is Miriam Usman. I'll see you next week, God's willing. Until then, be a law-abiding citizen. Bye for now.